It's exactly 9 o'clock in the studios of Classic FM. And good morning to you, those that's joining us on GBN Television, Channel 7, Channel 11, and Channel 20. If you are on cable, I want to say thanks for joining us for today's episode of To The Point for today, the 31st day of the month of October. This is the last day. It's official. You can argue, you can query with the police. That's okay, but that's it. It is final. Today's the last day. I want to say thank you to those that's joining us via our social media platforms, be it Facebook or YouTube. Thanks for being part of the conversation. As we've come to expect over the years, it is Thursday, and so we have a representative from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force. And joining us this morning is Corporal 203 James and WPC 68 Thomas. And this morning we're talking about the traffic laws and safety relative to our children. And that is an important element because, of course, as adults, parents, we find ourselves not having the ability all the time. Traditionally, our parents would have been with us. They were with us all our lives. These days, though, officers, you find 5-year-olds, even 4-year-olds on the streets and on their own. And so it begs the question, is something wrong with our society, or is it just a case that time has evolved and children are becoming more and more independent? But either way, the question of safety remains relevant. So I want to say good morning to you and welcome to the program, my officers.
Good morning to you and thanks for having us.
Good morning.
So let's talk about safety. Safety on the road relative to our children. What is, I'm assuming, adults, children alike, the whole conversation of safety remains one of the core elements of the Royal Grenada Police Force and specifically the Traffic Department.
Yeah, this has been so, and it has remained the mandate of the department to ensure that our roads are safe and to put measures in place as regarding enforcement and encouraging persons to take responsibility for regarding the use of the road. The use of the road basically will cover several persons in different capacities, which will include drivers, pedestrians, passengers, cyclists, motorists, even the sanitary worker. So, it comes down to your responsibility and ensuring that your use of the road is safe in every occasion.
I'm happy when you mention the use of the road, you give quite an exhaustive list because very often there seem to be competing interests at times on the road, especially when you have, let's say, the pedestrians or even the cyclists, motorcycle drivers, who for some reason seem to think that the rules that is handed down for everybody else doesn't necessarily apply to them.
Well, we want to reinstate and reinforce the whole idea that the use of the road is for everyone, every person that is permitted to use the road, and you are guided by the Road Traffic Act and the Highway Code, which gives guidelines as to your conduct on the road and its use.
Give us a summary as what are some of the basic rules that contains as it relates to safety on the road as prescribed by the Highway Code, and those rules that would apply for all road users.
In particular, as a pedestrian, we'll always want to advise that where there are sidewalks available, that you use the sidewalks. Okay, you're attempting to cross the road, make sure that it's safe to do so, in that you have first make contacts with that driver, and you know that you have the clearance to do so. Just while on the point of pedestrians, what we have noticed is that in recent times that so much persons are traversing with those devices in the air. What you're also observing is that those motor vehicles are becoming even a bit more silent. They are hybrids, so when they're not in motion, you don't hear anything, and all of a sudden. So you have to be cognizant of the use of the road and other road users, and you have to want to take measures, to protect yourself. What we don't want happening at any point in time, that here it is that we have some mishap or some incident, and it's due to your negligence, either the negligence of the driver or the negligence of the passenger or any other road user. So it's your responsibility to be safe on the road, to take measures to protect yourself while on the road.
And that is a proactive responsibility.
Certainly, sir.
Let's talk Officer Thomas, about, because we highlighted the need for the use of the pedestrian crossing, and that very often seems to become a troubling one. The whole question as to how do we use the pedestrian crossing?
Right, so for persons using the pedestrian crossing, we would advise that they make eye contact with the driver, ensure that the vehicle stops, completely comes to a stop before you start crossing. In areas where there are traffic lights, you ensure that you pay attention to the signals. You cross when it is on white. When you see that white man, you cross. Once you get the go-ahead, you cross quickly. Some persons believe that if you're using pedestrian crossing, the driver has to wait. But you want to ensure that the free flow of traffic is maintained, so you cross quickly, but you ensure that the vehicle comes to a stop before you start crossing.
So the first thing you've indicated, eye contact with the driver.
Yes.
And you certainly would want to be absolutely certain that, one, that he's acknowledging you and he's stopping simultaneously.
Yes, but though there are cases where some drivers, you're not able to see through the windscreen, ensure that the vehicle comes to a complete stop before you start crossing. Or some drivers may flash their headlamps to give you the go-ahead to start crossing.
Before the pedestrian crossing, there's that white line.
Yes.
What is the purpose of that line?
Right. So this, just before the pedestrian crossing, there's this box. So a lot of persons would think that it's not the pedestrian crossing, but drivers should stop before that line, and that gives the pedestrian enough space to go across the road. So it's just a box that it is just a box. It's just a cutoff point for the pedestrian crossing. So it's not just the zebra, but then there is a cutoff point where drivers should stop before.
And that is important for both the driver and the person trying to cross, officer.
Yeah, so basically that demarcation line basically gives guidance for you as a pedestrian or as a driver. So in the instant that vehicle already crossed that line, you as a pedestrian will have to wait. You are required to wait. Okay, you as a pedestrian, you would have gotten to the line to cross. You would stand there and allow that vehicle to come to a complete stop before you traverse the road. There are some instances also, as indicated, we want to ensure in every instance you want to allow for the continuous flow of traffic. And you would have noticed in peak hours that you'll notice officers at those crossings. When the officer is at the crossing, he supersedes and directs what happens at the crossing. Because our whole intention is also to have a continuous flow of the traffic. So when the police officer is at the crossing, he will direct as to what happens and when it happens. And yes, we are aware it's a crossing, but when the officer is there, he supersedes and directs what happens at the crossing. You'll often see it at on the Tantin Main Road and in the general area of Andigan High, or at the TAMCC area. Basically, when the police is there, or even at the textile crossing in front of the bus terminal, these are areas you'll also observe it, in that once the officer is there, he directs and supersedes as to what happens there. Yes, it's the normal way to cross, but when he's there, he directs and as to how it happens and when it happens. So.
I know we want to deal with penalties later on, but I'm interestingly want to focus for the next few minutes on the use of the pedestrian crossing, because more and more I observe it's either we've gotten into this rotten culture. I normally refer to it as the doom culture. I reach first, I cross first, not paying any significance to what's happening. And even when it comes to the pedestrian crossing, I often say to the general public that I've never seen old lion lying down on a hospital bed. Yeah, but one of the culture that you're seeing, especially around the town of St. George, in terms of the crossing, where the drivers, because I'm not sure whether or not there is the zebra marking, but that initial line, that box, I'm not sure if I see it around the areas of the bus terminus. So what happens is that the drivers literally, they come right up onto the zebra, and now you as a pedestrian, you don't have to negotiate. Do I go? Do I come? Is he going to stop? And that seems to create a challenge in my eyes.
What you're saying here would be noted, and because we need to establish that demarcation. to ensure that there's that safe zone. What you recognize is that those markings are done with paint, and sooner or later they would fade over to wear and tear and use of the road. So what is required ever so often is that those lines are remarked and ensure that demarcation line is properly established so that we can have safe zones for persons traversing the road.
Failure to realize and obey, acknowledge those markings. That crossing right in front of Republic Bank, it's almost like people, they play a game of tag. Who's watching? I guess the drivers, they assume, well, if you're paying attention, I will stop. If not, once a pedestrian is standing there, what should be the prescribed protocol that allows for the flow? You come, I'm standing there.
As we indicated, a safe way to cross the road is that you as a pedestrian is expecting and is awaiting that driver to come to a complete stop. You don't want to be guessing that you're wanting to cross the road and he's moving. We want persons to be able to extend those courtesies in that you're observing me. Here am I. I'm doing as what is prescribed. I got to the pedestrian crossing. I will stand and wait, make that contact with you. I'm looking forward to that vehicle or motor vehicle or whatever it is coming to a complete stop, and then I will traverse. So here it is. We want persons to be courteous, be observant, be prepared to extend that courtesy to persons wanting to cross, or at the same time you, the pedestrian, allowing the vehicle to flow. But in particular, that you as the driver would have come to the pedestrian is standing there, awaiting you to complete that stop. They basically want to acknowledge that you have come to that stop because we have given guidelines as to the prescribed way in crossing. They are standing there, they are waiting for you to complete that complete stop, and we would allow for you to allow them to cross the road safely.
Thomas, that waiting time, is that allowed for both the vehicle that is immediately on your side that the pedestrian is on? And because what happens very often, you're on one side, but the traffic continues to flow on the other side, and vehicle stops on the left side, and the driver is telling me, go ahead. I get to the middle of the road.
Well, you as the pedestrian should ensure that vehicles stop on both sides, because you have to pay attention concerning your safety as well. But the driver does have a responsibility as a road traffic sign. When you're approaching a pedestrian, you're supposed to slow down before you cross. So that would give you time to observe whether there is a pedestrian waiting to cross or not.
I guess that brings into question now the whole conversation of markings and notifications, because in the terms of most of us that are locals, we know where the pedestrian crossings are. Yeah, but even sometimes if the drivers come from the next direction, while I'm assuming you're supposed to be driving with due care and attention, he may not necessarily realize you're on the other side of the road. That's necessarily what is it that you're doing. So I guess that's one of the issues I'm assuming that would need to be addressed.
Need to be addressed, because what you recognize is that the pedestrian crossing is for the entire road. Yes, there are two lanes, which takes in either direction, and the crossing will take you across the entire road. So as a result, driver on the left side, right side, you need to be able to stop and allow for the pedestrian to traverse.
And given that we want to have a focus on children, WPC 68, you would certainly want to advise parents at a very early age to teach your young ones how to use the pedestrian crossing, the significance of it, and particularly that it is not a catwalk for the young ladies that allows you to figure Broadway time.
But I'm happy you raised that, because that's a concern we have. A lot of children are not aware of how to cross the road properly, and oftentimes I have to stop them and say, listen, this is what you have to do. You need to pay attention to the traffic light. This is when you cross, because a lot of them run across in front of vehicles. A lot of them jaywalk as well. So you have the pedestrian crossing here, but you illegally crossing up here where there isn't a pedestrian crossing, and this is putting your life at danger. And a lot of the adults do it, and what we don't realize is that children are looking, and they're mentoring in our footsteps.
Jaywalking, is it on the books?
No, not necessarily, but jaywalking is basically illegally crossing. So you're walking across the road where there isn't a pedestrian crossing, and of course putting your life in danger. Because I'm a driver, I see you crossing and there isn't a pedestrian crossing. Some drivers wouldn't want to stop, and so you're putting your life at danger.
I'm assuming now, Corporal, that we have to go, and I know that the RGPF continues, and the platforms like these are used to educate, but jaywalking, Grenada, that has almost seamlessly become part of our culture.
Yes.
We cross when we tell ourselves that we need to cross.
You know, and as I highlighted, you really don't want an incident arising due to your negligence. As we indicated, your safety on the road is your responsibility. You need to take action, that appropriate action to protect yourself and other persons. So we want to encourage in all instances. But as indicated, is that they are not they are not crossings all over the island. And at some point, you will have to cross the road. We want to encourage that whenever it's done, that is done safely. You know, we can't get away from the look, listen, and look again. It's not, there's nothing can be wrong. I would have learned it as a child.
Oh, yes.
You know, and it remains. And, you know, we can't beat that. You look, you listen, you look again before you cross. What we'll also want to encourage that where there are not pedestrian crossings and you have to cross the road, there are some guidelines that you can use in those regards. In that you attempt to cross the road where it is Norris. You know, you don't choose the widest portion because it takes you a longer time to get to the other side. You'll cross the road where you have visual that you can see on either side, both sides. You avoid the corners, you know, or the curbs. You know, you find areas that where you can observe the traffic and you can see in good distances and you cross. We want you to cross with good haste, you know, get to the other side quickly and get off the road. As I indicated, we always want to encourage that where there are sidewalks, that you use those sidewalks. Where there are not sidewalks, what we want to encourage also is that you walk on the oncoming side of the traffic, in that the traffic is always in your view. You know, and you pay attention and your traffic is always in your view.
That now brings it into conversation, and I know only recently we had where the Ministry of Infrastructure has commenced a road evaluation to kind of get an assessment of our roads and everything is what's happening. But the point that you're making, I want to touch first on the issue of the sidewalk, specifically the Tantine area. There's a culture now of the bus, small vehicle-owned drivers, where they literally drive up on the sidewalk. And I'm talking about specifically in front by the homemade area. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying that it's only a matter of time, God forbid, that something should go wrong. How much of a concern is that, and has that been brought to your attention as we're all in the police force?
Yes, it has been brought to our attentions, and in so doing, we also have taken measures to basically indicate the no parking. We are aware, as indicated, is that road users maintain the road be motorists as well as pedestrians, and we have to. The law acknowledge the pedestrian, and we must make it safe for them to do so. In that, what you don't want happening is that here it is, as you as the motorists are now parking on the sidewalk. What eventually happens is that you allow the pedestrian now to go compete in the road with the motorists, and we really want to don't have those situations. So where there are sidewalks and they are made for the pedestrian, we want to encourage drivers that you don't obstruct those roadways, you don't obstruct those sidewalks, and allow for the pedestrian. As indicated, in particular, the area that you speak of, it's an area that has a high volume of persons. We are aware of the schools in that area and the number of persons that traverse that area. It's also in close proximity to the port, as well as, there are commerce in that area. So we want to encourage drivers that the sidewalks were designed for the pedestrian in the traverse and in the conduct of business or whatever they need to have done.
You made reference to no parking. Is that area designated, and I'm referring to specifically in front of homemade, is it designated as a no parking? Because if it is, officers, believe me, nobody seems to be adhering to that.
Okay, so basically the no parkings act within the town, there are gazetted parkings, as well as the Road Traffic Act permits for the Commissioner of Police, being that person that you can direct and see feasible as to those road signs as often or as need arise. So basically you'll see signs that are erected, and then you'll notice there are signs that are painted permanently onto the ground. So these are the gazetted no parkings, and from time to time you'll see the Road Traffic Act permit the Commissioner of Police from time to time see it fit and necessary to erect those signs to maybe alleviate against problems or to make our roads safer.
Let's focus. I want us to cover it, particularly when it comes to the children. We within the town of St. George, there are designated bus stops Yeah, and I think everybody knows where those bus stops are. You ask those busmen, they know, okay, they seem to play quite an excellent game of cat and mouse with the RGPF. Even in the heart of tongue, and I wonder what is it that's happening. But as in relation to children, bus stops and the child is getting off, you see most drivers would tend, a good percentage, I don't want to chastise all of them, where they would stop and allow for the pedestrian, the passenger to cross. Let's talk about Women's Council 68 about the prescribed behavior. Where should I choose to pass? The front, the back, and how should one navigate that?
Well, I believe persons should cross in front. You're coming from a vehicle, whether it be a bus or a private vehicle. The driver has contact with you. They can see the vehicles coming from the back, so they're able to stretch out their hand. Most of them do that and stop the oncoming traffic so that you can cross. So you're safe on their end because they've seen you crossing, and on the other end, they can stop the vehicle and allow you to cross. What you see happening at times, the driver would stretch out their hand, but the pedestrian is not paying attention, and the vehicle coming would not stop. And some of them would not stop and just continue going. So you as the pedestrian have to be aware of your surrounding as well. So it's not just the driver, but both persons have to be aware of your surroundings to ensure that your safety is maintained. Do
you get a sense, Corporal, that because we keep bringing it up, that you need to have a sense of awareness? Do you get the sense that as a nation we understand and appreciate that? Because we tell ourselves, well, is going to be the driver's fault? Is them that will get a ticket, not me? So I'm just going to balance, as they say.
Well, as indicated, it's not in its entirety, and you can see it from the conduct on the road. So we just want to implore and want to encourage in all instances that persons, let's assist the other in making our roads safe. And just back to the highlighting regarding the children and the children's crossing. We want to encourage conductor, driver, at least take them to the complete side of the road. They have a way of they want to just to that portion and ask them to just run across. But we want to ensure that it's safe. Children becomes very distractive, and a lot of things will catch their attention. They get off a bus, they see the friend on the other side, and they just want to go. But you, as an adult, would want to, assist in ensuring that whatever is done safely in every instance.
And you'd also, and I always remember this occasion years ago. I was right in front of Scotia Bank in town, before the traffic lights and all of that. I'm trying to cross from one side to the next, right in front of my bride, and I'm not paying any attention because I'm on my own business, and I am moving, and that's why just to highlight the point. And there was a child behind me, and the child told himself, "Well, this big man cross road, I can cross the road too." And that was me. I'm negotiating the traffic, the speed at which it's going, and I know I can get to the next side. And it only highlights the point the child decided to follow me. I mean, I heard the footsteps, so I held his hand and I went with him. But it only highlights the fact that we need to take responsibility either way, because we might be doing what we see in our own eyes is prudent, not realizing it's a chance we're taking, and it's some child that is around. And that's what's important that parents continue to remind their children, look up, look down, look up again. I still do it,
Yeah, I do it myself.
I still do it. There's nothing that could be wrong with that. It's 25 minutes gone past the hour in the morning time. With us this morning, we talk about the road safety and with an emphasis on children. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue the conversation looking at the road safety in the context of maintenance to your vehicle, and then we'll open up the lines for some of your calls. Quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Tourism is me, tourism is you, tourism is everybody, and tourism connects us all.
Did you know that tourism generates revenue and foreign exchange earnings?
Did you know it stimulates infrastructural development and facilitates cultural exchange among people?
You must know tourism is linked to all industries,
from agriculture to construction.
So support the industry today and be welcoming to all our visitors.
Tourism is my business. Tourism is your business. Tourism is our business. listen one and all.
Tourism connects us all. A message from the Ministry of Tourism
and the Grenada Tourism Authority.
Hi, we're here at Answer Coating Grenada Limited, a proud sponsor of Christmas with GBN. And this year, we're giving up to 40% off various items.
And customers actually have the opportunity to win up to $1,000 cash. So we encourage you to stay tuned to Christmas with GBN and look out for all other in-store promotions and product information.
And don't forget, this December, a night of shopping with Answer Coatings.
Proud sponsors of Christmas with GBN includes Ace Hardware, Hubbard's, Flow, Grenada Duty Free, and Answer Coatings.
Welcome back to the program, To the Point, for today, the 31st day of October. My guest this morning, Corporal James and WPC Thomas, and the focus is on road safety with a particular focus that is on the children. Before the break, we were highlighting what the rules are. We highlighted the proper way, the prescribed way to use a pedestrian crossing and all of that. And outside of that, we were highlighting some of the challenge we have to traffic in Grenada. While we're in the break, I just realized we spoke of Tantine, but somebody also hinted that on the lane in front of Knights, that seems to be a recurring decimal, Corporal, that it makes you wonder. It's as though, are we ever going to get it right, what happens on the lane?
Well, this is something that we have addressed on more than one occasion, several occasions, taking necessary measures. We have clamp persons there, we have patrol those areas, but we recognize that it becomes reoccurring. And reoccurring in the sense that we are aware of the establishment that is there. And it comes with twofold, in the sense that here it is that we will push and direct for the continuous maintenance of your vehicle. And we notice with the influx of motor vehicle and maybe the availability of parts, we notice that most of the persons are there for those issues. In so doing, we always want to encourage that in every instance that, allow the road to be passable. What we have, as you indicated, regarding our culture is that wherever we want to find something, we want to park right next to it. We need to be able to get ready to adjust, and you park away and you walk to your destination. Because what you recognize and you know for a fact within the general area of that establishment is that there's not sufficient parking for the persons who want to make use of that business. So we really want to encourage the persons making use of that establishment there, that you will be fully aware that there's not sufficient parking in that general area or on the compound of the establishment, and persons who then want to opt into the road. We want to encourage you that this is a no-no. It's a violation against our traffic regulations. You're basically causing obstruction. But
there are times when we seem to get it right. I mean, there are times you see a police officer stationed there, and the traffic flows now. Well, yippee! And in other days, it's like, oh, well, the devil is having a ball today.
Yeah, so it continues to be a challenge for us. We really want to implore upon persons is that, in particular, that roadway, we have a lot of heavy laden vehicles on that road, and we want you to show that courtesy and that consideration for those vehicles. Particularly highlighted within the Road Traffic Act is consideration for other road users.
Right.
And in particular, I just want to highlight the road users, in particular heavy laden vehicles. What you'll notice is that those vehicles would want to be moving on momentums. And this might be the only way for the heavy laden vehicles as this prescribed route for them. And with those loads and having to stop and have to move off again becomes a challenge at times. So you want to be able to consider the fact that this road is basically has a lot of heavy laden vehicles moving on those roads. So we want to ensure in every instance that the obstructions are minimal. You are fully aware that in that general area that the accommodation for parking is very scarce. So you'll want to advise that you can find alternative parking and you're able to conduct your business.
But WPC Thomas, in the same vein, and I want to I mentioned it last week, the trailers, those SLs, that assume as though they have a special license as to how they operate on the streets, day as well as night. These guys, I had it, and I make mention of Springs, there's two trailers flying one behind the other. And what they do, because they have their horns, so you hear them a mile off, but they are going at breakneck speed. That again should, I'm assuming, if it hasn't been brought to your attention, but should be a measure of concern for the RGPF.
It has been brought to our attention on several occasions, and so the department is working to deal with these situations. Of course, holding persons accountable in that regard.
I think maybe that's where we can probably encourage the general public to start taking videos. Is that possible? If I capture some material, is there a platform? I know there was some point in time when the RGPF they were employing some automated service that allowed for interaction with officers on the street and the general public.
So we want to encourage you that in those instances that we are not everywhere, but when those instances arise, you can have them reported and we'll find several ways to have those addressed. As you indicated that we have observed the speeding, and we want to remind persons that the speed limit was designed and has a purpose. The speed limit would allow you to be able to observe, think, brake, and be able to come to a complete stop without causing any danger. And we want to advise that the speed limit remains within the town is 20 miles per hour. Out of town, private vehicles, 40 miles per hour. Buses, trucks, and the commercial vehicles, it's 35 miles per hour. So we just want to remind persons that the speed limit still remains and they are in effect. And we want to encourage persons to drive within the speed limit.
Okay, I think we seem to have lost that caller. That's safety on the road, maintenance. We traverse the nation's road and you travel in buses, you see some vehicles on the road and you start going, seriously? There is licensing and registration that takes place annually. Some have advocated that be brought to twice a year.
Well, as indicated, we want to encourage persons to put that same amount of effort as they'll put into wanting to have the vehicles, they have their annual inspection done, that you continue the maintenance of your vehicle. The vehicle will be similar to the human body in that you're going to walk, you'll find time for, to go check yourself. And it's obvious that your vehicle is working hard and it need to be maintained. You're on the road, the conditions may not be suitable in every instance. So there are wear and tear. So as a result, the mechanical parts need to be replaced, they need to be checked. Persons are opting and attempting to do a lot of things by themselves, but we want to encourage in instances that you seek the specialist and seek specialist advice. Go to your mechanics, have an idea regarding as to what is happening with your vehicle and don't take it for granted. I'll deal with that on another occasion. And what may happen is that when that time comes about and that you're needing that vehicle or needing to take that appropriate action with your vehicle, is that because of poor maintenance, you're not able to take evasive action or the appropriate action as needed.
Good morning, caller. You're live.
Oh, yes. Good morning to you, JC, and good morning to your guest. Now, over the years, we had been discussing the same problem, and I don't know. My observation over the years, the increase of the traffic, great amount of vehicles on the road these days, and most of these vehicles are coming from outer parishes, from as far as Sutton, St. David's, Grenville, into St. George's. Now, we are centralized, which means that everybody's coming into the city to transact business. Rightly so, it doesn't have so much business in the outer parishes. Has the police considered within the government planning strategies, based on what they're experiencing on all levels, the accidents, etc., that they discuss the question of urbanizing, in other words, developing the outer parishes so the population could be split. So everybody don't need to come in the city to transact. The businesses are also in the countryside. Have they really discussed that with the authorities so that as they plan urgently discuss the urbanization. Rather than concentrate on St. George's, you have businesses placed in the outer parishes.
Okay.
Develop the outer parishes so that could happen, so that we could get rid of many of these accidents and problems that we have in mainly coming to the city or in the city.
Okay, thanks a lot, caller. 435-2041, that is the number on the inside. You want to?
Well, based on the concern that you have raised, I want to believe that that has always been the concern in wanting to urbanize. And as you indicated, is that because most of the businesses are centralized, that we're having the influx within the town.
But even you would agree that even with the influx, even if we decide to urbanize, the conversation would remain the same in terms of the safety concerns within the town of St. George. We should be the same safety concerns when you're going outside of St. George.
Yes, sir.
We want to go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. A very interesting program. Now, I'm calling from St. Andrews. And we have a school which is Bailey Government School. That's on top in the hills. And sometimes I'm scared of the children because I know that, like the infants of them come from school and some of them just live from the hills, sometimes speeds coming down to the main road. And many times I call the same program, another program, we need even at 2 or 3 homes. I think one of the officers, whosoever came and watched it, the place the last time, and now there is no homes in front of the Bailey Government School gap. And again, the next one again, right on Moya Bridge. The school children have problem, and according to which the they came from, when they drop off the buses and them, they don't do like holding up for them children to cross. Sometimes they 5 minutes late for school and whatever. So that I would like for some things to be happening on the Moya St. Andrews Bridge and in front of the Bailey Government School, because the drivers and them, they are crazy on this concrete road.
Okay, thank you, caller. Okay. 435-2041, that's the number that is on the inside. We were addressing the whole concern of maintenance. Maintenance of the vehicle and the no conversation of road safety. Is that conversation limited just to external brakes or less of a public transportation in particular? What does the law speak to as it regards to the interior?
Basically, it directs that it should be properly sanitized and properly maintained. And this is what we want to encourage in that, as you would have highlighted, the public service vehicle, in that the maintenance in particular, that your seating is properly bolted, the seat belts are clean, and you're able to use them. That the general interior of that bus is clean also. You don't want to be getting into a bus and, here it is that you're dirtying yourself or it's not properly sanitized. So there's a requirement in particular for the public service vehicle to be kept in a sanitized way and ensure that it's clean daily.
I want to get back to that in just a bit. There's a caller. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. I mean, yeah, what is my rights as a passenger? The concerns that you raise, the seat belts, the seats being bolted properly. There's a particular bus on the Springs Road that has the back seat. Those guys make adjustments to those seats at their own whims and fancy. So they've elevated the seat, which means you're up here, and yet it's not steady at all. So it's rocking back and forth. You have seats with iron projecting. I was in a bus with a lady the other day. She literally got scratched, and the driver said, "Well, I guess as a local parlance, Zafe, it's your fault. You should be minding your business." And I'm looking at him. Hello, I'm coming into your vehicle. You have whatever is it with your seat protruding. What is it about me minding my business? What sort of protection is there for the road users, and how exactly what can they do?
Well, basically, here it is that you'll have sustained any injury or maybe harm caused to you as a result of this. Same can be reported and can be addressed.
Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Good morning, Mr. Cadore. Good morning to your guests. Very interesting conversation there this morning, but I have a couple of observations which I'll do quickly. adherence to the rules as established by the traffic code, etc. I heard the gentleman speak of the pedestrian crossings. Interestingly, no mention was made about the zigzag marks which are established by international law on both sides of the road and on both directions, so to speak, of the pedestrian crossing. There's a purpose for that. We speak of eye contact with the drivers and the people about to cross a pedestrian crossing. That cannot be made with vehicles parked alongside the pedestrian crossing, left and right. It cannot be done. And it exists right in front of the terminal. Vehicles parked where I understand that there are marks, zigzag marks, and there's something about that. Why don't we uphold the law as is established? No parking marks right in front, Court Bank. There are massive no parking marks there. But the vehicles park, I cross, oh, by the way, I am totally blind, but I learned mobility and orientation with the capacity to move around. So if I inquire and I get the information that there is a no parking, I can cross there if the traffic permits. But they cross and you collide with a vehicle upon a no parking sign. Implementation of the law. So there are too many loopholes. Finally, the question of road marking paint or pavement marking paint. I understand this is used abusively. There are two predominant colors, white pavement marking, and yellow, called traffic yellow. Purpose is clear and defined. The yellow denotes impending danger and warning. Where white is, upon control and supervision, people can mobilize there. Vehicles also. Control. But where you paint with yellow pavement marking paint, nothing should be there. It shows or it denotes impending danger. It's like looking at the international sign for warning, which is an isosceles triangle with a black inner line and a massive exclamation mark. It translates into the same. If there's impending danger on a speed hump, it has to be painted with yellow and not white. It may look beautiful, the side of the edges and the curbs, painted white because it's outstanding, you see it. But that is not the appropriate paint for it, according to international traffic standards. I wish the police would pay, and I want to say this publicly. On various occasions over the past couple of months, I've been trying, and not because I like to talk or anything, to call the senior officers to exchange little ideas, and they refuse to take my calls. There always some excuse, and they will call me back, and they wouldn't. But it's all right. I will make my noises on radio otherwise. Who cares to listen? Let them listen. So I urge the police to be careful with these things and uphold the law and make it easier for people, especially with visual impairment, trained and capacitated to move around the country. Another final thing as I end here, Mr. Joseph, permit me to. It is time that we have in this country, at the beginning, on each threshold of a pedestrian crossing, there should be a tactile marking called echo boards, so that when the blind person passes with his cane or her cane, they would touch it and to know where they are. It is time we start executing these things in this country because they're extremely simple, cheap, and it facilitates everybody with equal rights.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All the best to you. 452041, that's the number on the inside. Corporal?
Well, the concerns raised are noted. And yes, we are mindful of same. As indicated, the whole act of road safety involves everyone, and I'm going to highlight it involves everyone. And we would have, as indicated, those marks have been demarked. They are there, but persons would violate them. When they violate them, we will certainly take action. But we recognize even after we have taken those actions that they still continue to occur. We want to implore upon persons that there are purpose for those markings and those signs where they are, as is indicated, as for impending danger or the potential of having, some form of obstruction or some, obstructing the free flow of traffic in those instances.
Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning. I am calling from St. Patrick's with regard to
Caller, is it possible you can turn off the device in the background, please?
Okay. Yes, I am calling with regards to the bus stops at Soteres. They're coming down High Street. There's a bus stop going into Soteres, and there's a platform to make it safe for the passengers to get off the bus and get on the bus. But when you get down to the intersection to go down Soteres or La Fortune, the bus stand there where the buses come up from Soteres into High Street, there is no platform. And also there is one lower down the old post office in Soteres. These are not very safe for passengers getting onto the bus. So I'm requesting that 2 platforms be put up. One, as you enter into High Street, there's a bus stop there. It is not very safe. People always slip and fall. And then the other one is near to the old post office at Soteres. So I'm requesting that consideration be given to put in a platform on those 2 bus stops.
Okay, thank you very much, caller.
Thank you.
We continue with the morning time, 12 minutes on to the hour of 10 o'clock. To the point, officers Corporal James and WPC Thomas in studio with me. And the conversation touches and surrounding the issue that of road safety. We were highlighting that of maintenance of vehicles, but I want to draw to your attention an issue, because our roads are narrow, and there's certain things we understand as Grenadians, but it doesn't mean because we understand the circumstances, that's the prevailing circumstances, that we have to adopt it. Outside of the bus terminus, the sidewalks is limited, roads are narrow, there's vehicles traversing back and forth, but there's a concern of there's always a person standing on the sidewalk, especially in the afternoon time. WPC 68. What does the law say regarding that? Because in the evening you have to now negotiate traffic in the road, which you can't go there, but there's a million bodies standing on the sidewalk waiting for Jesus to come, but he hasn't come as yet. So what do we do in the meantime? What does the law prescribe regarding that?
Well, the law speaks about loitering in the town. So persons who are not conducting business should not be standing or lying around on the sidewalk. And of course, we don't have much sidewalks. However, we have in front of the bus terminal. It's an ongoing issue with persons, especially students, who tend to lime around and loiter around the town of St. George. However, in situations, we deal with situations. But there's only so much that we can do at a point in time when we try to focus at peak times on the congestions and so on that are around the town.
I am particularly concerned, though, on Fridays in particular, where, in all fairness, there is a presence of law enforcement right in front of my Chucky's area there. But my concern is, if the law stipulates the issue of loitering, the police officers are standing on the sidewalk themselves. I guess they're doing their jobs. But pedestrians are right there, and everybody just seems to be mingling. And there's always a challenge. You're still dead because the vehicle is parked there. There's very often when there's a mobile, one of your mobile units, which just picks up some space. And to me, that adds to the problem. It adds to the problem itself.
Well, as you indicated, is that we accept the fact that our roadways are pretty narrow, and there is not much space, for other persons, just first for that free and open space to move around. Right. And it remains and continues to be a challenge. So all we can continue to do is to implore upon persons to allow for the free passage of persons, in particular on the sidewalks. You're just naturally just standing there, just idly by, and you eat amongst the loitering. Yes, we are aware at times you may have to wait a bit a while to get a bus or so, but at the same time, the other persons conducting business or wanting to have free passageway, and we want to encourage that you allow for the free movement of persons, and particularly on the sidewalks.
Allow me to draw your attention, and we'll go back to the telephone line. What street is that? Is that St. Jules Street? The street where the bus is from St. Paul's? when they're coming into
Maloney
Street. There's a, I'm not sure if it's a business, but it's a congregation that has taken up settlement there. And you see every day, particularly in the evening, young men engaging very often in activities which can be considered to be illegal. Because you pass, you see them, they're smoking. There's one day I asked a police officer, is it just me that's sensing and realizing that these guys they're smoking, they're using drugs right on the ground there? And the streets are already narrow. There's parking on Maloney Street, and yet these young men are sitting there religiously, Corporal, with coolers, having a party as though. Is that something that the RGPF traffic department is concerned about?
Well, I tell you for so, same has been noted, and major action has been taken in the past, but we recognize that it is reoccurring. I guess we'll have to develop stronger measures in dealing with those situations. But as you recognize that most of the things that we are addressing here, it comes right back down to the individual. If I'm being responsible, I would not take such action. So we want to encourage persons to stay responsible and recognize that our roadways and passageways are pretty narrow. And we want to make it safe and ensure that it's safe for every user of the road, including yourself. But where you are congregating now becomes a challenge for motorists in particular to traverse those roads. We want you to take responsible action for yourself and for your general safety.
But they're obviously not taking responsibility. We go up to Maloney Street, 4 roads. And these young men, they almost as though they're on the beach, right in the corner. There's a chair that is settled, it's as though they're in the veranda. What are the penalties? They are literally obstructing the free flow of traffic.
Yes, that has been noted and that has been spotted. Yes, we did take some action in those areas, and as I'm indicating to you that it's reoccurring. It continues to reoccur. So we got to continue the enforcement in those areas and continue to be on top of what is happening there. So
45-2041. We probably have time for one final caller. I don't know. There seems to be a growing culture of a do what you want culture that has become prevalent in Grenada, where Grenadians it's almost they assume they can challenge law enforcement. You have the busmen, they do it. When we talk about controlling safety on the streets, a busman will stop. He comes into the bus terminus, stops in the middle there on St. John Street because he's playing peekaboo with the police to see how he can pick up passengers. The traffic starts to back up. Give me your thoughts on that before we wrap. But I'm going to take this final caller. Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cadore. Just for 1 second. I'd like to offer the Royal Grenada Police Force some assistance. As a visually impaired person, trained in dealing with people with visual impairment, I offer my services to train, or at least to give some instruction, some guidance, some orientation to the traffic wardens on how to deal with and treat with the visually impaired that circulate within St. George's. My telephone number is 231 John, easy to interpret.
Okay, thank
you very much, sir.
231 John. Very easy number. Very, very easy number. I'm certain the RGPF would have no qualms about the general public wanting to assist and be part of the conversation.
Yes, sir.
We almost out of time. It's 5 minutes on to the hour. I'm going to give each of you a minute just to give me a closing salvo, and we will wrap up today's session.
Just back to general road use and general road safety. Up until this time, we basically would have had 8 road fatalities. And they would have resulted from different instances or different circumstances surrounding. But we would just want to implore upon persons that, you need to take responsibility for your action. And so then with your action come consequences. We want to, But at that same time, we just want to encourage you that you need to be responsible, and that as a result of whatever may occur, that it does not occur to your negligence. take responsibility for your action. Take your safety is important, and the safety of our nation's youth is important. When you're there, wherever you can assist in helping them to cross the road safely, or just offering that advice. As I said, I learned it as a child. You look, you listen, you look again, and then you cross. We want to implore upon persons that the general safety becomes their responsibility, and we want to encourage you as much as we can enforce. We want you to be responsible.
WPC 68.
All right, so I want to implore on parents, ensure that you teach your children how to cross the road safely. Sometimes we look at teachers, we leave it up to teachers to do our job for us, but let the teachers enforce, but encourage your children at home. Bring them out and show them how to cross the road. We want to implore upon the motorists that they would exercise patience with persons crossing. They would ensure that they observe the road traffic regulations, slow down, look, and observe persons who are passing, allow them to cross safely. We want to ensure that persons, I realize we did not speak about persons crossing at nights, that you wear bright clothing so that persons can see, because there are areas that do not have proper lighting, so that you ensure the safety of your crossing. So it makes it easier for the driver to see you, and it makes it safe for you to cross properly.
Certainly, and not just for persons, those who they traverse the roads in the night. And early mornings as well.
Early mornings
as well. It's important. And there's a culture that if they bounce me, they're wrong.
That's
I don't know why you would even want to think of them bouncing you, and whether they're right or wrong legally. You don't want to have to be inconvenienced by getting into some motor vehicle accident. I keep reminding you, I've never seen Olion lying down on a hospital bed. Yeah, and there's also the issues of these, and I wanted to highlight that as we go. Though you made mention of drivers utilizing the specialists, meaning mechanics, but I want to implore that we've seen a lot of roadside mechanics popping up all over the place. Yes. Make sure that these mechanics they're qualified. It's not guys that's hustling to, they want to do something to stay alive. And I understand that. We all want to live. But make sure you go by individuals that understands what they're doing, and that lives matters when it comes to safety on the road. Until then, so long, everybody. Indeed, it was a pleasure being here with you. Tomorrow would be the last session for the week, and we're expecting to have folks from NADMA. Conversation should be around that, the issue of tsunamis, understanding tsunamis, and what should we be doing as we continue to keep ourselves in the know regarding these natural disasters. So long, everybody. Thank you, Corporal James and WPC Thomas. This is as far as I can take you. Until then, so long. Have yourself a great day.